Hey there, it's your co-host Sid.
And this is your co host, Sharfuz. We know that job search is a difficult process. It can be frustrating, it's hard to network, find the right fit for yourself, and it can be a very lonely journey.
Here at Careers Uncorked, we're trying to bridge that journey and have amazing conversations with people.
And we want to welcome you to our episode today.
Hey Sharfuz, I love how you say a lonely journey and you're really stressed on it. You're like, it's going to be a very lonely journey.
I'm just speaking from experience at this point, dude. It was pretty rough. I'm not gonna lie. But hey, dude, how's your Saturday going so far?
Saturday's going well. I actually upgraded my cup, so I've got this one. It's like a heated cup. It's from Accenture back when I was working there. It keeps my coffee warm, so now I don't have to sit here without coffee.
Oh wow! It reminds me of your past. It's a tribute to your past companies, huh?
I know,
Like,
right? Quick shout out.
shout out to Accenture. Yeah, no, dude, this is awesome. Today's actually really special Saturday, Sid. I don't know if you knew, but today is actually World Mental Health Day, which is like super cool. That like I didn't know about it until a few days ago, which is like I think it's a very great day for especially for the session we have today.
I don't know. It's weird how it was such a coincidence that you scheduled it on exactly the same day.
Hey, I have a sixth sense behind this. Um, but yeah, dude, I've been super excited about our guest today, especially because this is one person we went to college with. Um, I had a chance to work with this guy.
Mhm.
Funny story, me and him, we were part of this startup team called Pollinate that we helped launch to Melia Launchpad. So me and him, we were members of that team led by Max Sims. If Max
Yeah,
is watching, shout out to him. So we are from that Pollinate crew back in 2016-ish.
I
So
remember it was really awesome. I remember I got free Chipotle out of it. So it's really
yeah. So a lot to talk about. Me and Fernando, we go way back, and I'm super excited about him. So like, let's bring him to the stage, and I want to see the guy's face. Where is he?
Hey everyone. Hey Sharfuz. Hey Sid. Thank you guys for having me on.
for
Yeah,
sure. I think we should thank you. Like I really enjoyed that Chipotle that I was mentioning, and it was all thanks to you and the team at Pollinate. So huge shout out to you guys.
Yeah,
I
that was quite a day. I remember we didn't expect. I think we had something like 150. What was it? Sharfuz was like 150, 200 burritos, and it went like
200 cards, dude. Like Redner, they were trying to break open the door. Like students, like, we want to be here. Like honestly, like Max deserves a lot of credit, and the launch he did was spectacular. Like I think there was a lot of learning stuff to learn from him at that time.
For
absolutely,
sure.
absolutely. I got to remember that Chipotle move. I had forgotten about that. That was an effective one.
Yeah, I still have my Polynesian shirt. I was gonna wear it, but I kind of forgot about it. But I still have that shirt. That's awesome.
Right. I'm sure I have it. Yeah, somewhere over here too. It's been
Yeah.
moves, but I'm sure.
Oh yeah. No, for sure, dude. But yeah, Fernando, I guess let's get started. Like, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself as a person? Like, what do you do outside work? What are some of your hobbies?
Yeah. Well, right now I recently adopted a third dog against the better advice of some of my family members. But so that's been kind of the majority of my outside of work hobby time has been training dogs. But I love it, so it's
Yeah.
cool. That's a big one. Just a lot of hiking. Yeah, ancillary things that come around being a dog owner.
Yeah.
I live in LA. I used to live in Rochester. We went, as you said, Sharfuz, we went to school together. So after I got away from that crazy winter madness and moved out to LA, started doing a lot of nature and hiking and stuff like that. And coincidentally, Mental Health Day, very good for your mental health, hiking and nature.
Very true. Very
Absolutely. Yeah.
well said. I can strongly relate to that too. I mean, LA is an awesome place to be. I visited last year before the pandemic and stuff. Awesome, awesome place. I'm actually living in Austin. I do exactly the same thing over the weekend. I've been debating whether I should get a dog, but I still go hiking, which is really fun.
You should, if you like putting the time in. I mean, it's definitely a commitment, but it's a worthwhile commitment. I'll say that much. And Austin, that's pretty close. That's definitely one of the places I haven't had the pleasure of visiting, but I really want to. I know the startup scene there is booming. So definitely very interested in coming over there. We should set something up, Sid.
For sure, definitely. I'll communicate with you on that Google Doc.
Absolutely, yeah. The new it's going to take over. I think that's going to be Slack is typing on a Google Doc and deleting it.
For sure. All right, let's jump into early college life. So, Fernando, I know BestBeing was a startup that you created back in college. So, first of all, why don't you just introduce us to what BestBeing is about, and let's start off with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, wow, that is true. We started BestBeing back in college. That's crazy to think about. So, BestBeing is essentially your online ecosystem for self-improvement and wellness. So, if you think today, I want to buy a blender, or I want to buy a table or a bed or a video game or whatever, I assume most of us will think I'll probably check out Amazon. That's where I'll go. That's the one place I'll go to do that. But now if I ask myself, I want to improve a quality about myself, that's probably a little bit harder to think of one place that you would go to do that. Maybe you'll Google whatever that is, or you'll search elsewhere, but there isn't a tool, a platform, or an ecosystem that really kind of facilitates that idea of improving yourself deliberately in whatever way that you need and you really want, taking control of your self-improvement. And that's what BestBeing is. BestBeing is a online platform that leverages AI in order to allow you to improve yourself in whatever way that you need and want, and allows wellness providers, the folks that are out there helping us improve ourselves, actually set up, run, and make their business 10 times more effective. So yeah, that is BestBeing.
That's really, really cool. I love how you sort of have used technology to really power the aspect of personal development and stuff like that. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us about how did it all come to life? Like, you were in college. What inspired you to do this, and why was it, like, when you were while you were spending your time in college? Why did it happen to be at that point?
Yeah, always been very interested in the topic of wellness from a personal perspective. For most of my life, I dealt with really severe obesity, especially throughout my college years. Freshman 15, definitely very real concept. And if you already suffer from obesity, it can turn into freshman 150. So that was, something that I always struggled with my whole life. Very, very severe obesity. It's a very kind of, for lack of a better word or phrase, very on the skin kind of condition. It's hard to hide, impossible to hide. So it's something that you kind of grapple with. It has a huge mental health component, usually or always associated with it, almost always, and certainly in my case. And so it really kind of got in the way of a lot of stuff in my life, especially again during my college years. And eventually got to the point of morbidity. So when your life is at risk and there's other conditions associated with it, like high blood pressure and all that nasty stuff. At that point, I had already started getting into computer science. I was, really interested in the topic of AI. Having come from film, I found that creative aspect of, building software and creating, AI and machine learning, that kind of stuff, really, really interesting. And thought that probably there was a good way to apply that kind of knowledge to the issue that I was struggling with. At the same time, my co-founder and fiance, Kelsey Daly, she was working with eventually who became one of our initial investor, actually, was working with her to start a institute for the science of well-being. So just an idea of like a nonprofit, a gathering of minds around the topic of well-being. So with the combination of those ideas, really wanting to apply AI and machine learning towards allowing us to improve ourselves in whatever way we need, in my case, losing weight and becoming physically and mentally and ancillarily healthy. And, combining that with that idea of one place where people can come and learn and grow in whatever way that they need. And, eventually that became BestBeing.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, it was a crazy journey. I'll tell you that much. You guys, Sharfuz and Sid, you guys are right in there in the entrepreneurial journey. No doubt, Careers Uncorked is a great example of that. Yeah, it's a crazy journey. It's crazy to talk about the origins and how it all started, and thinking about where it went to, and where we are right now. It's quite a process. I'll say that much.
Yeah. Absolutely, Fernando. Yeah. First of all, I appreciate the kind words, and I think it's super. It's always remarkable to hear founders' story, what made them get started, and I think your story is really unique, especially because you went through that problem and you were not in a good place yourself, and it's, first of all, hats off how you just transformed yourself. You look nothing like the Fernando in college, like, in a great way, like, hats off, and like, I like the transformation is real.
I'm half of that, Fernando, literally.
If you don't mind sharing, I'm just curious, like, how much did you lose, if that's something you're comfortable sharing? I think it's very inspirational.
Absolutely. Everyone should, well, not everyone, do you, but everyone should be comfortable sharing this kind of stuff, because obesity is a disease, and we should absolutely normalize that topic. I weighed close to 500 pounds at the highest. I'm 6'3", so luckily I'm 6'3". Certainly I could still move and walk and stuff. So that was the only kind of benefit there, or positive, I guess. But yeah, close to 500 pounds and lost. Still going, but lost roughly 240 so far. So again, almost half of that body weight. So thank you, Sharfuz. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you would think the physical change is the biggest one, but for sure the mental and wellness, you change as a person, for sure.
Yeah,
That is amazing.
That's just so remarkable, dude. Wow, it's crazy. Wow, Fernando, excited to talk a lot more on that. But I think one thing I do want to cover is one thing I really like asking people is that with BestBeing, you especially started in college. Are there parts of college that had an influence on you, or that prepared you to start on this venture? Whether it could be classes or other experiences during college, what helped you?
Of course, 150%. You mentioned pollinate. Shout out to Max. Definitely that was a big experience. Shout out to Wilfred, the CTO too. He was kind of helped me dip my toes into that whole web development world. Yeah, pollinate, huge impact. We actually, I should mention, we actually collaborated twice in college, pretty extensively. Sharfuz, we collaborated on a web development course. That was so. Shout out to Robert St. Jacques. I think you're in RIT now, Robert. If you're listening to this, that's shout out to you. That was a big influential class, I would say, for me, just in terms of kind of identifying, and that's something that for startups is a huge component, is just working with a team, working with other people. Everyone's different. Everyone has different kind of ideas, and you all need to get on the same page. And watching not only our team build the project, but what all the other teams did really was fascinating, and I thought that was a hugely influential class. And yeah, man, a lot of classes, I gotta say, George Ferguson, if you're listening to this, you kick my butt a lot of times, but you taught me most of what I know about AI. So that's, shout out to you. Yeah, huge inspirations from college. I think that's what allowed me to get this all started. Especially the relationships, I'll save my thoughts on the actual classes for another time.
Absolutely, man. It's really great to hear that, how much those classes sort of translated for you. So that's really super cool. Yeah, I think, Sid, we kind of want to dive more into like your experience with BestBeing so far and how much you scaled it. Sid, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, for sure. So Fernando, what's it like being such a young CEO? Like, you're running a company. How crazy is your life?
Crazy. Absolutely. I mean, that's the one thing that I'll say for anyone who's looking to get into this. And I think a lot of your guys' audience would probably fit that bill. It is crazy. It takes a lot of commitment, a lot of really long days, a lot of soul searching, which is a very intense physically tiring process of searching and discovery and things like that. So it's quite a process. I mean, you often have to engage with people. If the earlier you choose to start doing this, right, the more you're going to be engaging with people that have been doing this for longer and have been doing this and very accomplished at what they do, and etc. So getting kind of caught up in that is very, very easy, especially again, the younger, I would say the younger you are as a CEO, the younger it is to get caught up in that, especially that. I mean, I call myself a CEO, like that's totally freaking meaningless at this point. It's just like, it's just a startup team working hard together to get to a vision. So I definitely think that it's super worthwhile, 100% crazy, and you learn more in a month than you do in a year any other time, I would say. Yeah.
That's for sure. And what stage is BestBeing at right now? You mentioned that it's a startup. How many team members do you have working at BestBeing, and how many users do you have on the platform?
Yeah, so we have 6 team members. We did our early launch around July 14th, actually. So we did our launch focused on wellness providers. And since then, we've been working with roughly 150 wellness providers, getting their business all set up on BestBeing, starting to work with some of their clients and things like that. And we're actually gearing up for the release of our recommendation engine, which is our marketplace, more of the client side based or client side of things. That's actually getting released on Monday, so that's pretty exciting. Check it out on Monday. You can go and get matched with a provider using some pretty awesome AI. Yeah, that's as far as where we are right now, I would say solidly I would consider ourselves an early stage startup. Very much so, still within the pre-seed. That whole kind of idea has shifted pretty significantly in the past few years, pre-seed, seed, series A, and all that kind of stuff. And Google it if anyone is interested. However, yeah. So right now we are still, I would say, in the customer development phase of things, and I can get a little bit into what that means if you guys are interested.
But. Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks for sharing that. I think there's so many things to unpack there just of your entrepreneurial experiences. I think we're gonna go definitely triple over time, but one thing I definitely do want to ask you is that you've been running a team, and I think you've been doing this for the last almost 2 years now, right? Or like, as I remember, you guys were the Health Prize back in 2019, and you guys grew up so much. So, asking you, what is your secret behind running a successful team? Because it can take a lot of effort, like keeping team together. How did you go about doing this?
It's a continuous process, first and foremost. Communication is the number one. I'm sure that everyone will have heard that. What does that mean? Communication in a very specific way. So when you're in a startup team, a startup is very, very different than an established company, right? So in an established company, usually there's going to be kind of a very established hierarchy. Someone can fire you is kind of like the bottom line idea of things, and you respond to that person, right? You're gonna answer to that person. In a startup, that hierarchy is a lot more horizontal, and it's not as established and shouldn't be as established. A startup is very much so kind of a team working. Initially, day one of a startup, it's an entirely faith-based enterprise, right? So it's 100% backed on faith. There's no facts. You, as a founder, you might think you know stuff. You don't. You really don't. And I'm not being mean. I mean, that's just the truth. And we could unpack that. But so as a founder, I thought I knew a lot in day one, and I don't. I didn't. It's totally faith-based, and it kind of stays that way for a long period, because the initial portion of a startup, and BestBeing is very much so still doing that, is search and discovery. It's finding something that it's discovering and clearing up unknowns, right? So if you have a person on your startup team, they have to be comfortable with that idea. of discovering unknowns, of the fact that this is a vision-based and a faith-based enterprise, and that you guys are going on a wild journey, through unknown jungles. That's the requirement. That's the prerequisite for the team member. And then on your side, on the manager side, on the founder side, rather, it's communication. So you have to be 100% honest, open, and communicative every step of the way. And that's something that I learned by mistake. When you're a founder, initially, you're so afraid of making mistakes. You're so afraid of telling the truth to anybody, because the truth is usually not as rosy as you would like people to believe it is. So you spend a lot of time kind of gauging and wearing masks, right? And I'm sure that you guys as entrepreneurs know exactly what I'm talking about. You have to be able to take that off initially with your team. You should be able to take that off with everyone, but with your team is where it starts. So they should be part of the major decisions, right? Any reversible decision should be made in the meeting right there with everyone when everyone is there, and that kind of stuff. So to me, it's communication. Talk on Slack all the time. If your Slack channel isn't constantly being notified of stuff, that's odd. We have meetings every day now. Every morning at 7, we have a team member in India, so my 7 in the morning. But every day we have a meeting at that point, and usually more than one a day. So communication, over communicate is what I would say. That's the secret sauce.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was very valuable. Sid, I hope you're taking notes. I'm also kind of taking notes.
I'm taking notes about the Slack channel for sure.
Yeah, I think.
If I open my Slack app here, honestly, since this is relevant to the question, I'm not going to count it, but I do have, I would say, 35 different channels. We have to clean some of them up, but I would say most of them are active at some point or another.
Right.
And the dev channel is highly active every day.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Dude, that's amazing. That's insane, dude. Definitely saw what you just described so far. Some of the challenges that me and Sid are also facing, and we can also see on a regular basis. So glad you mentioned that. And I think that, speaking of challenges, I do want to ask you that so far, what do you think was, there's so many challenges. I know it can be hard to just navigate it, but what is one of the memorable things that you felt and you had to go through it, and something that you think most founders will go through as well? What was that for you?
That's a great question. That's actually probably an easy question. You would be surprised, but it is. So the answer to that is that we follow the product development model initially. That was definitely the biggest pitfall challenge that we had to are overcoming right now. What that means is that, most founders are geared to think, and we went to a school that, by the way, hey, U of R, if you guys are listening to this, you guys are awesome. I'm not saying anything that you are not, but this is what the business school at the U of R is probably going to teach you. If you go there, is that you should follow the product development model, right? You have a concept or a seed, you have an idea, you probably think you understand the market or the customer or whatever. You build something initially, kind of, a product or whatever, a beta, an alpha. You test that alpha with customers, and you kind of do that and make sure your product does what it needs to do. And then you work towards the first customer ship, right? A launch date, you launch your product at some point. So that sounds super benign, I would say, for most people, listening. It's kind of like one step after the other, and you just go right. And eventually here at the end, once you've gotten to the end, your first customer ship, that's when you start growing. It's all to the right. Super easy, super clean and beautiful. Except that it really doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. Because that model is created assuming that you already know who your customer and who your market is. As a startup, there's no way you can know that. There's no way you can know that unless you are a startup that's going after a big player or a market that's already established and exists. So like if I'm going to create another Walmart, that's just better than Walmart for some reason, it's cheaper, whatever. Let's say I'm going to create a cheaper Walmart. then what? Okay, fair enough. Whatever. Don't listen to me because I'm, you know who your market is. It's whoever buys from Walmart. You know who your competitors are. It's Walmart, et cetera, et cetera. So you know what you have to do. If you're a biotech company and you're doing the cure for cancer, also don't listen to me because just go make the cure for cancer. You'll make billions. So those are the exceptions. But for everyone else, if you're building something new, if you're trying to resegment a market, if you're trying to bring something new into an existing market, you don't know who your customer is. You don't know what your market actually is. So if you go and you start building something and you spend a lot of time building, and then you build a marketing pipeline and you build a sales pipeline and you put money into that, that's money. That's a bunch of money you're spending on something that you have no idea if it's true or not. And then you eventually get there and it's like, no one's buying it. You spend a bunch of money and then you go bankrupt. And that was the biggest challenge that BestBeing faced. Circling back to that, is the fact that we came at this with a huge dream and a passion, and we were like, we know what we're building. And then we started building it. And we spent time, and a lot of time. We spent some money, thankfully not a lot of money. And so we realized that maybe we don't really know exactly who our customer is. We don't know exactly who they are. We don't know exactly what our market is. And then at that point, we kind of went back to the drawing board. So that's a big challenge to overcome. Getting to that point where you realize that you realize you don't know as much as you thought you did is a huge challenge. I mean, I guarantee 98% of entrepreneurs, at least in the early stage right now, are going through that. And I have a few examples to back that up, by the way, of product development versus not product development and why that is true. A lot of the very spectacular failures you'll see in startup world follow that model. A lot of the successes follow the customer development model. That's what BestBeing currently is doing. But biggest challenge was getting to that conclusion.
Yeah, you summarized business school really well. You don't need to shell out $200,000 anymore.
That was spectacular. I love that. I think it's just and there's I think that's such valuable, and I'm a huge fan of YC, and I think that's also a lot of YC preaches you build something that people want. And I think a lot of founders especially get so excited by the idea, the adrenaline rush. So let's just put all our effort to building something where we didn't verify do people want it or not. Right.
100%. And look, the idea is hugely important, right? It doesn't, the customer development process can't exist without a vision. That's the first step. It comes from the founder. It comes from the vision. So that's 100% the case, right? The only thing is that you have to be willing to change your vision, or rather modify the details of your vision. That's a better way to put it. You have to modify the details of your vision to fit what the market actually wants. That's the thing. You can build something that's incredible, and that's so cool. And if no one wants it, you're not going to make any money. That's how that's how the world works.
True.
That's really cool. Yeah, you're using I don't know, just build something with machine learning because that's what everyone do these days, but nobody uses it. So you just have a cool project, but no one's using it. So what's the point of it?
Yeah. There's a lot. Exactly. There's so much there, and that's the thing too. I mean, I should say, right? If you have a vision, a lot of the times it's about modifying the details and finding the right customer for your vision, as opposed to changing your whole vision around. I guess I do want to say that, since I mentioned all the other stuff, is that I'm not talking about go focus group to build a product. That's not what I'm saying. Have a vision. That's awesome. Then go figure out who the actual customers are.
Got it. Yeah, no, thanks a lot. And I think I'm also gonna get and Sid, sorry, because I do get carried away when we start talking about entrepreneurship and stuff like that. But I do have to ask you, Fernando, and I think this would help a lot of our audience who are college students, because college entrepreneurship is something that I also spend personally some time on, just to build something and solve some problems there. But what do you think is the hardest challenge for college entrepreneurs since you started it and you broke the college boundary and you're pursuing your startup full time after college? Where do you think students lose it during college? Where do you think they stop? Is there a unique challenge they face? That's especially when they're as a college founder.
100%. 100%, Sharfuz. Back to the original point is the idea. It's still the fact that you're stuck on the idea that you need a bunch of money and a team to build, whatever it is that you're trying to build. You don't. You really don't. Like today, startups can be built on thousands of dollars. Like, again, I'm super on. I've mentioned that, you should be honest. In my mind, that's kind of what I've learned throughout these last few months with BestBeing. So like BestBeing could have spent thousands and thousands of less dollars than we did to get where we got, for sure, except for the education. Like, you can't buy experience kind of thing. But so what I would say to most college entrepreneurs is that, like, don't think you need to go and raise money. You definitely don't. You don't need to raise money until you're making money and you have customers. And that's the kind of, most people, you've probably heard that actually as an entrepreneur, and you're like, well, but what the heck does that mean, right? Like, whatever. That's easy to say. I heard that 1,000 times. Super easy to say. You don't need to go raise until you've made any money. I think it should be more extreme than that to kind of sink in. Don't go raise. Don't think about investors. Don't think about any of that kind of crap. Sorry. If you're going to go do a business competition because you think you need like $100,000 from the business, like, you don't need any of that. What you do need to do is go and think about who do you think your customer is, right? And go speak with that person. And don't tell them you're building anything or necessarily. Don't ask them like, oh, do you think this website I'm building is cool? It's human nature to say that it is, right? If I come to you and I tell you like, look at this amazing dish that I cooked, what do you think? You're going to tell me you think it's awesome, for sure.
Yeah.
Right. But if I go and I tell you and I ask you, what do you like eating? You're going to tell me what you actually think about like, right? And if I cooked that instead, you'd probably like it much better than whatever it is that I initially cooked. So get a hypothesis, think about who it is, and go talk to those people. Ask what are their problems? If they had a magic wand to solve X problem, what is that problem? What is that X? You don't need thousands of dollars to do that. You need maybe hundreds of dollars. In a time of non-COVID, you need to go buy some lunches or some coffees. For some people in times of COVID, offer to tell them something interesting about an industry. For most people, having knowledge about something they care about is valuable enough. And that's really all you need to get started. As soon as you start thinking about, I need $1 million, I need $100,000, I need $500,000, it starts feeling impossible, especially in college. You have classes, you have all this other stuff. And that's where I think most people eventually drop out, is that they think their vision is impossible to attain. If you go and speak with your customers, you'll find investors there. You'll find people. I'm not kidding. This is the craziest thing. You'll find people that are willing to pay you money for like something that doesn't exist yet. It's crazy, but you will, because if you're solving the problem for them, they're going to be like, absolutely, like, here you go. I want you to solve this problem for me. And that's what we're starting to see even now with BestBeing. If you really focus on that idea that you hold on to any cash that you freaking have as hard as you can. You don't need to spend it until you have a working business. It's doable that way. And that's where I think most people kind of drop out is when they can't get to that sort of mentality.
Wow. That's very well said. I mean, definitely shout out to all those people who are working towards chasing their dream as opposed to looking for investment from like day one. Like, oh, I have this $1 million idea. Let's get some money.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a pitfall. It is. That's where BestBeing spent most of the money we didn't need to spend, was chasing after that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. All right. Now let's take a big pivot. Let's head back to the title of the session, Sparking Your Self-Development. So in terms of, what does this mean to you, Fernando? Like, what does wellness mean to you? What does self-development mean to you as a person?
Yeah, wellness, that's a great question. I think wellness is something that's, a lot of people have a hard time defining it. I really like the way that there's a gentleman at the National Wellness Institute that defined wellness as, the purposeful journey towards self-fulfillment. So essentially what that means to me is that, wellness is the act of improving yourself deliberately in order to become more fulfilled as a person, in order to become happier, in order to feel more content. So that's what wellness means to me.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome to hear from like your perspective, since whole business relies on people's perspective of what they think about wellness. So it's great to hear your take on that. And what do you think is why do you think actually people ignore things about mental health and wellness during college or even in professional life? You've seen a lot of people go through what the common term is like burnout. How does that come to be?
That's actually a great question, Sid, and something that I think is very much so. It's very interesting when you look at how we were talking about entrepreneurship a second ago. Self-development works in very much so the same way, right? It's the idea of going out on the field ahead of your issues and your problems, receiving feedback on how to improve, getting out of your comfort zone, receiving feedback. So understanding how it is that you are improving, even if it's little by little, coming back, making small changes so that you can improve more, and being on it's a continuous loop. So, how that's just one thing that I wanted to mention. And as far as your question, why do I think, and people might not focus on it as much, I think it's because people often put wellness sort of as a discrete category in their lives. So it's like, either I'm going to focus on my wellness, which takes time, no doubt. Anything that's worthwhile takes time. Or I'm going to do this other stuff, right? And when you're in college, I mean, you guys are going to definitely resonate with this, and I'm sure your audience is. Like, you got back from a class, right? Maybe you just studied for a few hours, you went to class for a few hours, it's evening, and you're going to go to sleep soon. So like, what are you going to do, right? Are you going to focus on doing anything about your wellness, or you're going to watch TV because you didn't get to do that all day and like you're so tired? That's probably what you're going to do, right? You're going to push that off. You don't need to. I think it's important for people to think about wellness as a foundation, right? It's something that it's an investment. If you put a little bit of time into it every day, if you start trying to incorporate wellness as a concept, as a foundation of your life, it's everywhere. Everything you do is impacted by it. If you start thinking of it that way, I think it becomes much more tenable to actually, devote some attention and take some time to improving yourself, because you'll start to realize that every aspect of your life is going to improve. So those hours that you feel like you don't have and that you now want to watch TV, you'll find that you have more of those hours, and you're able to manage your day better and things like that. It all kind of cascades into the rest of your life. So I definitely would say that it's that idea that you don't have enough time, and my what I would say to that is, it's an investment. If you spend some time on it, you'll have to spend less time on it very soon.
No, absolutely. I love how you mentioned that it's all about that investment, and I think that's what I personally did not invest as much of it during college, and I kind of realized the effect of it, because I think the negative effect sort of accumulates and it kind of shows in all your academic, your other extracurricular activities, in your personal relationships, everywhere. So definitely being a victim of that. Definitely can relate to what you're saying. Thanks for sharing all that. I think interesting thing I want to get your perspective on is like wellness and some of the challenges you especially face as an entrepreneur, because it can be toxic. The low moments can be the lowest of the lows, and it's a lot of soul searching, and it can hurt. How did you deal with your personal wellness when things did not work out and you knew that everything is falling apart and you have a team and you have investor money?
Yeah. So I think first off, entrepreneurs love practical advice. Begin with 5 minutes, incorporate meditation into your day. Begin with 5 minutes, add a few minutes every day. You'll find, I really do think you'll find that very soon it'll accumulate in time. And it's absolutely insane the effect it can have, even in spurring you to do more. Once you feel like you have any sort of again, if you're starting from a place where you really don't feel like you can devote any time, you feel like you're really unwell and you don't feel motivated at all to kind of take a bigger step, that's what I would recommend. Start even 5 minutes a day of meditation can make a big difference, especially if you kind of deliberately work on increasing that, right? So if you have a hard time getting to 5 minutes, start with 3 and then work up to 5 and keep working up. Push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone, not too much, but a little bit out of your comfort zone. And it's clear feedback. If you can meditate for a little bit longer and still feel at ease, and you can get to that place of calm and sort of letting go of your anxiety, then you know that you're increasing, and that's positive feedback. So I would really recommend doing that. Once you're ready, and I'll make sure to say that I'm not even saying do this through BestBeing. Do this however it is that you are going to do it. Find a partner, find a community, find someone who can help you measure your improvement. It's so hard to do that by yourself. If you really can't find a community, this is going to sound funny, but I would recommend writing your memoir. Write your life story. Start from childhood, work up. I won't say why. Do it. If you can't find a community, that would be my advice. Just do that. It'll be a striking experience. I'll say that much. And yeah, I would, but find a community, find a guide, find someone who can help you measure your improvement and measure your journey. That's a huge component of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree there. And thanks for those. I haven't personally done meditation yet. I've not gone into it, but that's definitely on my list. And I think that reminds me of like
5 minutes. Just
5 minutes.
5 minutes. And actually, just as even to not leave you hanging, like 5 minutes, all you have to do is for 5 minutes, focus on each of like a muscle group. So like, from your feet all the way to your head, focus on one muscle group at a time and just try to relax it a little more and just do that for 5 minutes. You can start today. I guarantee you have 5 minutes. And it will, I'll leave it at that.
No, absolutely. No. Definitely. I definitely appreciate that advice. And I think it's very valuable for our audience. And I think one of the things I want to mention is that, so today is World Mental Health Day, which is great because we have our session today is about wellness. And I just love how it all worked out like that. And mental health is such a big issue and it's such closely connected with wellness. And I guess I would say it is wellness at the end of the day, is how you feeling mental health wise.
Absolutely a big portion of, absolutely.
Yeah, it really is, right? So from your journey so far, Fernando, what are some actionable steps would you recommend for people, especially regarding towards mental health? I also love if you can also like share a little experience of yourself as well, like a mental health, if there was a time where you are not in a good place and how you overcame that as well.
Absolutely. And I'll frame it more towards entrepreneurship, since that's kind of where the topic went a little bit. I think the biggest thing, well, first off, actionable steps, again, as I said, start with 5 minutes of meditation a day, increase it. I would maybe more than, I think the meditation, the memoir, journaling, that's what I would say just to get started. And then trying to find a community. Certainly BestBeing can help you do that. Feel free to get in contact with us about that. But there's a lot of other, ways to find a community of folks that can help kind of, measure your improvement. Decide what it is that you want to improve. Look online. There's probably a community around that, and you can go and reach out to them if anything. And I really, really do encourage you to do that. And that's actually going to lead me to my other point. The hardest part, I think, the biggest challenge that I faced recently was actually probably around June or July, when we were doing the launch of the new platform, because we were still kind of a little bit, still quite entrenched in that idea of in the product development model. That's something I highly recommend everyone look that up. Look up the Startup Owner's Manual by Steve Blank. Steve Blank and Bob Dorff. Sorry, Bob. I should credit. I highly recommend that anyone look that up. And because, we were kind of building this product, we devote a lot of sweat and tears. And when you have people's money, other people's money involved, oh man, that's a whole nother ball game, for sure, in terms of anxiety inducing things, and we released the product, and it, we were getting good traction, but it wasn't the kind of traction we had expected. It wasn't what the business plan had called for. And yeah, that can be extremely frustrating when you're in that mindset, right? Because when you're following a sort of a set step-by-step plan and things don't go as planned, you feel like you're making a mistake. You feel like you're failing. And, again, other people's money is at stake. My team, their time, their careers, everything. It feels like the whole friggin' world is on you at that point. And other people's, like, that's the thing. I'd always dealt with my own, with my own issues, of course, and wanting to improve myself. But when you add other people on top of that, go try it. I'll say it that way. It's an experience. And really so that was extremely tough. I mean, you're thinking, like, is this going to work? You're looking at your runway, cash in the bank, right? Cash in the bank, and how many months you have left of burn rate. And you're thinking, like, can we make it by then? And those things were definitely kind of building up, especially around that launch, when it's kind of pedal to the metal, especially in the customer development process, the ship date has arrived. And yeah, so that's really, really kind of nerve wracking. And I spent a lot of time, sleepless nights. It was the first thing I would think of when I woke up at 3 a.m, and it was the thing I thought about all day throughout. And then I started really getting into kind of that, trying to analyze why these things were. Started looking at, again, customer development. Really do recommend people look at that, especially paired with agile development. I think that's probably something you guys are very familiar with. Customer development and agile development is like the scientific process to making startups work, by the way. So I recommend looking into that. And yeah, once I accepted the very first crucial lesson of startups, I think that was the big thing. And that applies to life and wellness as well, which is, it's okay to make mistakes. That sounds so cliche, but it really is. It's okay to make mistakes, with the caveat that you absolutely learn, like academically learn from every single one, right? So when you're doing a startup and when you're improving yourselves, it's never going to be to the right. It's always going to be circular. It's always going to be iterative. That's a nice way of saying you're going to take a step back for every 2 steps forward. You're going to mess up all the time. When you're improving yourself, you're going to mess up all the time, right? It's like like training dogs. You're one day they're perfect, and then the next day you have a terrible day, and you're like, what did I do wrong? It's the same thing with wellness, and it's the same thing with startups. You're going to think there's going to be some tough days, but it's circular. So as long as you're learning from those steps, you'll find that it's continuously not necessarily pushing you forward, but increasing your velocity within at least that circle until you reach what's called exit velocity, and then you move forward. And you'll see that by the time you've moved forward, you're ready to do so. It's much more effective. And again, it applies. This is both startups and your own wellness. Little steps that focus on learning and discovery. That's what's going to move you forward, as opposed to just kind of that blind charge forward. Yeah, I think that was the biggest challenge I faced and biggest lesson I learned, for sure.
Yeah, dude, thank you for sharing that. I think each of your your recommendations and your experience there is I could tell it's very heavy. That words don't justify a lot of the things you went through and you felt. But I think you did an amazing job just opening it up to us and the audience. So we really, really appreciate that.
Of course.
And yeah, no, this is awesome. And I think to wrap up with, Fernando, a question that we would really like to hear is that what is the vision of BestBeing? Where do you see yourself? What is the ultimate goal?
Yeah, the vision of BestBeing is that you my vision for Best Being is that if you want to deliberately improve anything about yourself, any skill, any quality, you will be able to use our platform and our tools in order to do so in an easy and measurable way. That's the ultimate vision, right? As I said, the online ecosystem for self-improvement, and so the Amazon of well-being. That's what we see ourselves as.
That's perfect. And I think that there's this thing that, if you're a good founder, you'll be able to explain that vision very shortly in a very clear way, which I think you have done. So that's awesome, dude. Like, hats off for that. And
Thank you.
yeah, I think we're definitely a little bit behind time set. So are we ready for a rapid fire round?
Yep. Before we let our guests go, we always greet them with a rapid fire round. So this is something where we get to know you a little better. So I'll get us started with a question, and then Shafuz will hop on from there. So the first question is, Fernando, tell us something that not many people know about you.
I am completely obsessed with Greek mythology and have actually taught a couple of classes about it. And I'm completely obsessed with sharks, and love sharks.
Wow.
Oh, wow. I love Shark Tank, but sharks are cool.
That's really cool, dude. Okay, next one. If not starting your business, what would you be doing?
Software development around data science, I think, is going to change the world. And if it wasn't for entrepreneurship, which is definitely the thing that I love the most, that's where I would be, or making movies, because that's my other passion. So.
Oh, wow, because you were a film major for a bit, right?
Yep, that's how I got started. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
All right, next question. What is your favorite movie?
That's a great question. Man, okay. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is what's good. I'm going to have to answer. If I have to pick one, Jaws.
Okay.
I see the relation. You got shark.
I don't know. Jaws. We'll say Jaws.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, that's great, dude. Next one. What is the best advice you have ever received?
The best advice I've ever received was, well, now I would consider to go check out the Startup Owner's Manual from a random Quora. The best advice I ever received from a person in my life was to diversify, and that was my father, I would say. Yeah,
that's really awesome.
Yeah. Also, I'm gonna buy the Startup Owner's Manual on Amazon. I have it pulled up on the Amazon website. I'm gonna buy it right after.
For real, I highly do recommend. Like, that's for entrepreneurship. That's the
very good. Nice. All right. Next
my
one.
question, Shafuz.
Oh, okay. I'm seeing you. Okay, fine.
All right. What is your fondest memory from the University of Rochester?
My fondest memory from the U of R. That's a good question. Meeting my fiance, definitely. I met her in the second day of school during that thing that they did in Wilson Commons, where they have all the students and they call it a party, and it's everyone looking at each other, And she was the only person dancing there. And I remember I saw her and I was like, whoa. So yeah, definitely my fondest one. And I would say, just actually some of the times in that little room for Pollinate in the library. Those are some of my fondest memories too, because I was learning what startups actually looked like at that point. So that's hugely influential for me,
For sure.
We're all from Max's School of Entrepreneurship. It taught us a lot.
Absolutely, with that whiteboard.
Out in music library. I remember those meetings. Those were epic. The last one, Fernando. You got to vote now. Favorite co-host, Sid or Sharfuz? It's a very competitive thing.
That's so tough. I mean,
we have a whole chart going on. We make each other do random ass.
Sharfuz, I love you, but I communicated with Sid today on Google Drive, and I think we might have created a new method of communication that we're gonna have to sell. So I'll say for today, I'll say Sid, but only because I know Sharfuz. I got. Come on, you're
oh my god,
with you, right? Come on.
Thanks, Fernando. I appreciate that.
That's so funny. This is like the other. This is the second or third time when I bring my friends over and they pick it. Like the hell's going?
We all know you're gonna forgive us, and like I'm gonna call you tomorrow or something. Like, it's like whatever. So, like I don't know Sid very well.
All right, Sid. Fine. You can.
I've got to build my relationship. I can't burn my right away.
Yeah. Fernando's going to come visit me in Austin soon too. So
exactly. I won't have a place to stay in Austin if I say.
I see what you did there.
Me, Sharfooz. It's basically.
This is awesome, man. Well, Fernando, thanks for being such a great sport. That was really, really fun. And I think we are definitely way beyond time. And thanks for, we don't want to keep you for too long. The next step, we'll kind of want to hear from you an overall recommendation, if you would have, especially for people either who are in the job search or trying to build a startup in this recession time, like in this COVID times. I guess recession or not, I guess it kind of is in a way, acceptably. We'll see. In short, what's your overall recommendation for people?
Okay, so my overall recommendation, if you're building a startup, I'll break this one down. If you're building a startup, is to again check out the Startup Owner's Manual or check out customer development. If anything, the Startup Owner's Manual is a little beefy, but check that out in the sense that if the one thing that you take from that be go speak with your customer first, figure out what their problem is first, and don't spend a bunch of money doing anything else. That's the first thing you should do. And especially today with no-code technology, all this kind of stuff, check out Share Tribe and Bubble. There's so much you can do to build something just to show quickly. That's all you need to prove that you can solve a problem. And that's what you need to do. You need to prove you can solve a problem. You need to prove you can do it in a repeatable, profitable, and scalable way. Only then should you think about spending money, a lot of money on other stuff. So that's my advice for if you're going to build a company is go do it. There's so much problems in the world, so many problems, so much innovation still to be done. Like there's absolutely, I would say 0.1% of what can be done in the world of startups and entrepreneurships has been done. 99.9% of the rest is out there for the taking. So go and do and search and discover. I'm not going to say go and execute because that's bad advice in my opinion. Go search and discover what your startup actually is. That's the first step.
Yeah.
So that's my advice for that. For the job search is network. Go reach out to people on LinkedIn, preferably. I would say, but no, for real though. LinkedIn is an amazing tool. Go reach out, and you don't always need to ask that person for something other than advice and more connections. That will often lead to opportunities and things like that. Leverage your freaking network. That's my advice. Like go ask people. If you don't ask them, you don't know what they're going to say. The worst they can say is no. The absolutely worst they can say is don't talk to me again. And amazing. Look at that clear step forward you have now.
Yeah.
Not talk to that person again. Right? That's easy. So, and that's the worst, right? That's the worst that can happen. So
exactly.
Go talk to people. Like call your friends, annoy them, bother your network. That's nothing can come of that, only advantages.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that was a great, thanks for that recommendation. That would be very, very helpful. And yeah, Sid, I think we're about to wrap up. It's the curtain's closing time. And I think I made a note that I wanted to mention before we wrap up was that, Fernando, you mentioned in your bio that the sacrifice and the hard work your mom did when she moved from Brazil to the US and to give you a better future. I totally get that. So really big shout out to your mom and for all that. I think that was a really good.
I gotta say, she had just had a heart surgery and moved like a month later. She's a hero. Huge shout out. Thank you for saying that. Huge shout out to her. Absolutely.
She really is. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Sid, any thoughts?
No, this is beautiful. Thanks so much, Fernando.
Anyone listening, connect with me. LinkedIn is awesome. Connect with me. That's
for sure. Yep. So Fernando's LinkedIn's down here. Fernando Thanks so much for being here. This is awesome. You've shared so much great advice, not only in the world of entrepreneurship, but also self-development. And today being Mental Health Day, I think it's really important that we've had this conversation. And
Thank you guys so much for having me.
anything else?
No, that's great. Yeah, guys, everyone follow Fernando, follow us on Careers Uncorked, and we have a lot of great stuff happening and coming up soon. Fernando, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, real quick, I got to say to everyone listening, Sharfuz and Sid, I've been following Careers Uncorked. I actually been following them early on in their entrepreneurial careers before Careers Uncorked. I think they are awesome. I think Careers Uncorked is something amazing. And thank you guys for doing this. Thank you guys for doing something really important, I think. And I'm really, really excited to see where this goes. I mean, I think this is an awesome thing you guys are doing. So thank you guys for having me.
Thanks a lot, Fernando. All right, enjoy your day.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. We want you to join our community.
You do?
Join us by hitting that subscribe button to stay up to date with all the awesome content we have in store for you.
Oh yeah, and one more thing. Make sure to smash that like button. No way, actually, destroy it. We're millennials, we love seeing likes. Catch you next time. Whoop-ow!